All right, we are live, ladies and gents. It is an honor to be here with you, Scotty Z, coming live today for the first time with the Tribes United podcast. And also you may be catching this either on YouTube or on the podcast, wherever you listen to those. So if it is your first time, welcome to this adventure. This really is an adventure. And today we are joined with a friend of mine that I met, 15 years ago in California when Samantha Rayn Bachman, ladies and gentlemen, had her own television show back there, teaching people the truth, the real truth, you know, and so many people now are coming to this truth movement and waking up and wanting to know more. Sam, you've been doing it for, I don't know how many years now, but, 15 years ago, you were on TV with your own talk show teaching this stuff. So you're a great speaker. You've traveled the world speaking. You're an activist. You've been educating for decades about what is happening in the world and how we can take back our power. And now more than ever, we need your voice. And I know you're out there speaking daily, which is great, and sharing people, but I'm just honored that I can help bring your voice to more people too. So ladies and gents, you're in for a treat. If this is your first time, head over to tribesunited.org and check out more of what we are doing. We are a movement. We are here to bring the leaders together to help us to rise up together. And without further ado, let's dive in with Sam. Sam, can you fill in a little bit of the gaps there in my intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? Hello, everybody. I reinvent myself every 7 years. I've worked out. It took a while. I mean, you have to get a few decades behind you, or a few lots of 7 years behind you to know that that's been a pattern through my life. But I sort of jump a little bit, Scotty, because there's so much to talk about. So I've got my pussy here right in front of me. It's a real cat. Don't look for me.
I thought you were going to take us there straight away.
Well, I could, because you said, what brought me to here, and let me start off with saying, well, as a female, we have the pussy, so we make the rules. And at the end of this program, I'll teach you about how that is actually going to be the case, with all that's going on. So my background has been women. I've worked in trying to prevent female genital mutilation, worked with getting menstruation products into Africa and India, worked with vaginal hygiene. So I was all of those things, mostly in third world. So I was known at one stage in India as the vagina doctor. Not that I'm a medical doctor. My degrees are mostly in metaphysical psychology, clinical nutrition. I started off in toxicology, did naturopathy, homeopathy. But who am I? I don't know these days, Scotty. There's so many different things. And that whole TV show, you were a guest on my show. You're one of the few that if people think, oh, it's bullshit, she had a show, I go, no, this guy was a guest on the show. And you were random. You just came on and played the didgeridoo. And here we are all these years later. But yeah, the show was a great way with all that I've done. And it's too much, Most people, their life is not as diverse as mine. I've had 3 husbands. First one died, second one wouldn't. And a series of, I've had 4 children, so I do understand why some animals eat their young. And now with grandchildren, and the diversity of being in the medical field and being in the alternate meditative field, but also being in the mind field. So I guess it's given me a lot of common sense. I'm a dairy farmer's daughter, so grew up 7-day-a-week ethic, working every single day, milking cows, but we were diverse. We had horses, wheat, sheep, beef. We had so many different things. So you get that diverse background. And I say that to say, because one of the places I am now is living off the grid, the sustainable living, that sort of model, which is where we'll get to.
Yeah.
But looking at the mind, and I've been a speaker, had decades in radio, including ABC radio, TV show, which was an accident. One of the other things there too with that, there was a lot of guests that I had on, Scotty, that it was all about near-death experiences. They died, came back and completely changed their life. So I think the coronavirus, the lockdowns did that with some people too, because, you lose what you had, or you fear of that, and next thing you're going on and doing something else. So but I have learned as a profiler, not everyone is up to that. Not everyone is capable of that change and diversity. And it's sad for some, but I guess I've, looking at the bigger picture, there was a farm that came up out of Canberra that the ralliers here in Australia with the corona stuff and government stuff and mandates and everything to do with everything that we were stepping up. And as you know, you would have seen there was a couple of million here, and people say, no, there wasn't that many. And I'm like, there was, I was there. But, you know, what came out of it? What's next? And there was a farm that popped up, and the farmer had let people come and use the land. But it's embarrassing for humanity that it didn't come to anything much at all. You know, there was the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and, you know, we can do this, do that, the fighting, the politics, and people just aren't joining together. Anyway, I'm going to shut up because that's supposed to be an introduction. And
yeah, right. And we will dive into that.
Dived into it.
Yeah,
so,
yep. No, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm diverse. I'm diverse, you know. So
and you followed your heart. Yeah, exactly. But you followed your heart,
exactly
Sam.
that. Yeah.
And you're courageous enough to do it. A lot of people out there want to have the type of courage that you've had in your life to make a difference, but do it on your own terms. Like what you did with the third world.
It's my personality type, though, too. You know, my profile is that. So literally, what it really is, Scotty, is I've gone with flow. I've had the courage to go with whatever. And I think a background and diversity in farm, we went with whatever.
Yes.
So I had I was destined to be that, you know, because of the background and all that. But my personality type is rare. I'm only 2% of the population. So most don't think like I do.
And what profiling system is that?
Well, okay, let's jump back into something else then. So what I do in my field in psychology, I guess my passion is deprogramming. So I'm going to explain that right from the beginning. So when you look at all the different programming systems, basically they all came from the same, which is the I Ching. So if you go back to the I Ching and then all the different fields, whether it's a 16 personality or any of the fields, the ideograms, whatever they are, they all go. So then Jung and Freud and all that, they all learnt from the I Ching.
Yeah, right.
So I go back to that as a basis, and then I do 3 or 4 different profiling systems because they're all basically the same, because they all they stem from the same root, which is the way that we are too. So they come from a truth system. We can see this in people. So hold that thought that and there's only really about 8 personality types. There's others that branch off of it. There's 8 key personality types. So hold that thought again. Okay. So let's go back to the fact that we are a biological computer. We're a human computer. And then if we look next to us, we've got a computer. So with the computer, we open it up, lights come on, makes sounds and noises and everything. So it's animated. So it's a computer that's animated. It works. With the human body, it's the fact we can see, hear, smell, taste, digest. They're factory settings that come with every model of human. So they're the same factory settings on each one. The next one on the computer is the operating system, Windows 8, Windows 10, whatever it is. With the human body, it's your natural skills, talents, and abilities. So it wouldn't matter whether you could sing, dance, whatever. It doesn't matter where you were born, you'd still be able to do that. So that means every other thing is something that has been added. So when you get the computer, it's got its factory settings, it works, it's got its operating system, then you add your programs. With the human body, the programs added: culture, religion, beliefs, how your mother treated your father, what number you were in the family, what star sign you were born under. All these different things have influences on you, what part of the world you were born in. If you were an extroverted, talented woman, but in some countries you'd be told, sit down, shut up, or we'll stone you to death if you speak up. So that's a perfect example of culture, sometimes religion, that has suppressed that biological computer. When I see a patient, it's a problem in the programs added. No one ever complains about their factory settings. Yes. So what I do is I strip people back to their factory settings, which allows them to be them, and then they see the problem in the field and they can get rid of it themselves, because they go, oh my God, that's something that's been added as a program. So one of my main is working. Exactly. It's a program added. So, and if that program, if you imagine a box over you, your thinking in anything is around that. You don't go beyond that program, beyond that culture, beyond that religion. So when we strip people back and they get to know thyself, we all have talent, skills, and abilities. And there's a Chinese saying that water flowing downhill always finds its path of least resistance. So what it is you find your path of least resistance. You go with your flow. And we all have this in it. We are all one thing. So I'd like to talk on morphogenic fields, but I'll let you get some speaking in, I think, with this too, and some feedback. So finding out, know thyself. And this is the problem. We're victims because we don't know. We don't know there's any more than what we know. And then when you realize that you are a product, and from birth to 7 is that first program, and then you become conscious. But the programs add, am I a 7-year-old Muslim? Am I a 7-year-old Christian? Am I a 7-year-old mean son of a bitch? Because dad is, and I only know a rough, violent upbringing. And so you're carrying all that through. And then you start to have a problem with, well, I should have done this, and how did I not stand up for this or that? Again, you're looking at a problem in the programming. When you take it out, it's so easy to forgive yourself, because you go, that wasn't even my program. So basically you go back and become who you were meant to be. If you weren't fucked up. So can I swear? I did.
Of course can.
By culture, religion and politics. So, you know.
That's huge. We are acting
on that. This is my main subject at the moment. I'd like to not talk about that too much and go on to something else today, but it gets back to that. Who are we? Sorry, you go.
No, well, that is the question. And I love that. For years, I was obsessed with The Matrix, the movie The Matrix. And I still think that I'm coming to more terms that we actually live in like a simulation, like a hologram. It's all binary. It's all, ones and zeros, on and off, a waveform.
Well, you look at ATU, what is it, the DNA code? ATCG, that's 4, whereas all that other thing is 1 and 0. Look what a computer can do with 1 and 0.
What's ATCG?
The DNA code.
Oh, okay.
So we got 4. So, and our DNA, so that's where everything is made from there. So imagine 1, 0, and 4 and 6 added, and that added another 2 in there. What you can do with that.
So the DNA of the human body has 4 strands or something, or 4 what?
Well, now we're getting too complicated for that.
Okay,
but there's 4.
Sure. But what about the DNA of animals? Do they have 2 or do they have 4?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right, okay.
I haven't researched on the animals, but I would say the monkeys are closest to us, so it must have the same. But
all right, cool. We'll leave that one though, because there's so many tangents to go. So I reckon this thing is a holographic reality, and we are creating it. But the programming is really... Yeah, right, exactly. But the programming is really interesting that you're saying, because we have been programmed, and people now, especially in the last 2 years, are waking up to this fact. Whoop, you still there? To this reality that we have been programmed, that we have been conditioned to be a certain way, to react in a certain way. And I think I've lost Sam. That's all right. I'll keep going and she'll hopefully come back. But guys, I'm going to dive in where Sam left off there. And the programming, we're acting out from a programming. We're not acting out from necessarily... Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys, and I'm sorry to Sam. I just fully got booted off the internet. So check this out. In Russia, where I live, Facebook is declared a terrorist organization because they put in their policy, they allowed hate speech against Russians. You can't have hate speech against anyone on Facebook, but they put in their policy that you're allowed, because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that you're allowed hate speech. So the Russians made Facebook a terrorist organization, and we have to be on VPN. I'm on a VPN right now, virtual private network, in order to... I'm in like the UK somewhere on my computer, so that I can then access Facebook. So the whole internet just kicked me off Facebook and out of Zoom as well. So let's keep rolling though. We'll just edit this
now
together.
We're working to a terrorist organization, are we?
Pretty much, yeah. And unfortunately, I sort of agree with them. The fact that they're allowing that hate speech against this particular type of people. It's so crazy, the world against the Russians right now. They won't allow Russian cat breeds in cat shows because they're Russian cat breeds. They're kicking dancers of Russian origin out of like dance competitions. The football league, all the Russian league. Like, what is wrong with these people? Yeah. They've just gone crazy, gone mad.
Well, actually, because I forgot where we were going when we finished. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be on silent.
All good. And also, guys that are on Facebook, if you're catching this and you're wondering where we're picking up from, click on my name or Sam's name. Actually, I've got to tag you again. And go and have a look. You'll see there's a part 1 to this where we dived into Sam's story and a little bit about programming and what you're focused on now, about helping to deprogram people. So if you want to catch the start of that, go and catch it. And otherwise, we're going to continue from here.
Yeah, we'll
So
just continue on
go, Sam.
something else, because we'll come around to it too if it was relevant enough.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, where you are, I'm in Australia, you're in Russia at the moment. So we're getting a lot of different stories here. We're seeing some stuff here that is obviously fake. Not that we want to get into the politics of there, but just to touch on it, because we're seeing devastation in Ukraine, but then we're seeing stuff that is obviously staged. You know, there's cars flipped over and damage everywhere, but windows aren't broken. You know, it's weird. It's almost like direct energy stuff that just targets certain things. So I don't know. Like we were saying in the beginning, you can't trust anything. Like we had the Port Arthur thing here. Now that's happening in Texas, or it's happened in Texas. You know, where do we have a conversation, Scotty? I mean, it's everything.
And this is the deprogramming. This is the deprogram you're talking about, because this is a wake-up call. I see the positive in everything. There's both. There's a negative, there's a positive, there's a spectrum, right? But there's a wake-up call for people to finally realize, like, only a couple of months ago, I'm now seeing Disney in a different way. And I've got a little one, you know, like, we grew up with Disney. Now I'm looking at Disney like, holy shit. Like,
I've seen pictures in the background on a Lego movie of Lego blocks having sex.
Like, this is crazy shit. And we're waking up to this now, and people are like, whoa. And this is the programming. Like, we've been programmed generationally to believe that we're something that we're not, that we're merely flesh and blood, spinning around on a ball, spinning around in space. Like, I'm diving into the whole simulation theory, flat earth theory, like, you name it. I'm looking into everything now, because and I've been awake for a long time, and there's people that are just waking up to this, but now the acceleration of this awakening, and it's two phases for me. It's one is the awakening to realize we've been programmed, which is what you're talking about. We've been lied to intentionally to keep us small. And then, well, what does that, so everything's a lie, what do I do about it? But then what does that make me? Who am I? That know thyself question. Who am I? And what am I actually capable of? The programming of our
parents and their parents. So we're
generationally.
Programming upon program.
Yeah, but what am I capable of? This is the real question. It's one thing, because a lot of people are stuck on the conspiracy, and they're stuck on the fear. And that, if you focus on it, all you're going to get is more of that. To me, that's the wake-up call to say, whoa, you're more than what you've been told. And then we have to ask the question, well, who am I? What am I capable of? Can I really create anything through my thought, through my intention, through my desire? Can I really do that? Like all of these ancient books have been telling us, maybe I can. And it's just the blocks or the veil of misconception of who I am that is stopping me from doing so.
Well, if you don't know, I'll put it this way, it sounds better. Know thyself. That's what the empowering is, because no one can take you off that once you understand. And when I'm doing workshops, I draw a little pyramid, which is a hill. And here's the dream, the vision at the top of the hill. Whatever it might be, this is what you're striving for. And here's you going up the hill. This is the mountain of success. But along the bottom of that mountain, you'll have people that I call campers, pullers, pull you back. You know, they don't do anything in life. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, all this sort of thing. So it's who we hang with too, the people that we associate with. So, but when you see it, you go, I'm being pulled back. One of the pullers is our ego. Our own ego will pull us back. Oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. So there's many pullers and campers I talk about.
And it's interesting. Once upon a time, I used to like hate on those people to a point. I'd be like, wake the fuck up. What's wrong with you? You know, why are you hurting other people? Why are you doing this? But now I actually like have a lot more compassion, because we've all been tricked into it. We've all been programmed. We've all been brainwashed. So there's like a love for those people.
But then there's those that are victims of their own self too. Again, yes, you're right. They have been programmed. But, you know, I've met almost generational Centrelink people, or, you know, and they're, you know, there's people that will just are happy to be a victim of the system. You know, poor me, but this happened and that happened. I don't get a lot of exposure to those types, although I've done a little bit of work in mental health, and I was told that I gave too much hope. Can you believe it? Because if you inspire them too much, then they're not on the program anymore, which is, we know how the politics of that works.
Funding.
But again, when you know yourself, you've kind of, that helps you step up. But keep in mind, there's all those layers. There's a lot of, incest, childhood, all these things that have happened in their childhood that makes them just, well, I'm not worthy of anything other than this,
Exactly.
And it's being, I met a woman on Centrelink, 7 children. 7 children on Centrelink. She had everything in the house, but the kids were living in a horrible condition. So, it's like, well, every time I get pregnant, I get a baby bonus, more money if I get pregnant, more money if I get pregnant, So.
But again, I don't want to spend my time with people that aren't willing to change. But at the same time, I'm past the point of thinking down on anybody, because I realize we've all been duped.
Yeah.
We've all been, and again, like you said, generations of Centrelink. It's sometimes hard to change. I was the black sheep of my family. Likely you watching this have been the black sheep of your family too, right? Like, I had to pull myself out of the conditioning of my family and literally like leave, and to be pulled crabs in a bucket, to be pulled back, attacked so much as a young fella. You're weird. My family used to call me weird. Literally, you're weird, boy. Why can't you just be normal? So my dad used to say to me, I love my dad, he's beautiful. We made amends.
My kids still say that. Why can't you be
that
a
you're
normal
weird
mum and a normal
exactly.
grandma? I'm like, what's normal?
What's normal? I don't want to be normal.
Yeah.
But now, like, this is the interesting thing, is so many of us that were weird, that were different, that were strange, are actually like the leaders of this awakening. It's the speakers, the thought leaders, the coaches, the entrepreneurs, the people that are out there
It's
living
almost
their
like
lives.
this is the time now for that, because that's where that new information comes out. I mean, the people that aren't really awake, who do they follow? They follow the media. People who are awake will follow alternate stuff, like what you have to say. Max Egan is a good friend of mine. There's a whole heap of them putting it out, but the programming is still within them too. And that's why, what I've seen, which coming back to that, I saw many a leader, so that was out there, and they have their followings, but they won't come together as one. They will not come together and say, let's get rid of our ego, stop pulling each other, trying to pull each other and badmouth each other. Let's just sit together until we work this shit out. And that's not happening. And I mean, they're so fucking organized at the other end. And oh, look, it's God. Look, I used to have, it would make me mad to see where humanity's gone. Like, can't people see it? Can't people see it? But look at how they're dumbed down. I mean, we've got poisons, we've got death by knife, food, and ignorance. We're digging our graves with our teeth. I mean, people are pouring things in their body as if it's a mini skip. And as I say, if you put some of this stuff in a fish bowl or on a plant, you'd kill it. So we've got poor quality food. Most foods these days that you buy out of the supermarket, if you closed your eyes and ate them, you couldn't tell you what it was. If you didn't see it, you couldn't tell what it was. It's got no flavour. So we're nutrient deficient. Our animals are slaughtered in very inhumane ways. So now we've got
after being pumped full of chemicals.
Exactly. And all of that is adding to us. I mean, we can go through topics. We've all heard of adrenochrome and all, just subjects for people to go and have a look at, and what's in blood. But let me just change the hat slightly. With every thought we have, there's a chemical reaction in our body, oxytocin, adrenaline, whatever it might be.
Dopamine.
But with every thought we have, there's a reaction in the ether too. And that's what people don't understand. That field, we have a reaction to. I'm going to jump again, because then we'll open it up to get into some good stuff. Because I did mention, I don't know where we got cut off, but about morphogenic fields. So
we'll go back to
explain a morphogenic field, birds fly in fields. You know how they all go together.
Or
if they
fish.
weren't in that field, they all go together. If they didn't, they'd all be banging into each other in the sky and falling out of the sky. One to go this way, one to go that way, which seems to be the way humanity seems to be going. So when they're in that field consciousness, they work together. The human heart puts out a field at least 6 feet from the body that we can pick up. At least that's what we can pick up. The human brain waves, we can pick them up outside the body. So people in our vicinity, we affect them, they affect that one, that affects that one, that affects that one. And yet they're social distancing. As I said, I'm going on a rant here.
You're good. Right.
And you can see how these fields, how they're stopping us connecting and having that field. But when you get that field connection, there's a knowing. we're talking about abilities and talents. We all have it. We all have it. Maybe not the same. There's as many skills from the ether, if you like, as there are here. So some are clairvoyant, clairaudient, some can just know math. It's just a natural skill within them. Some are good with art, some can see and paint better than than a photograph. So we've got all these skills, talents, and abilities, and they talk about all the superhuman movies and, you know, all these things you can do. There are people that can do these things. So how do they dumb us down? One of the main things, apart from TV, because that's just the frequency of the TV, changing the frequency of music, but is the oils. So every time, remember we used to eat fat on steak, we'd have chops and we'd burn all the steak, you know, and we'd eat fat that was this thick on pieces of steak. Now you can't even buy it that way. So it turns out that, I'm going to upset the vegans here, and I was vegan for 7 years, and I must say I lost all my friends. No one ever invites you to a barbecue when you're a vegan. True that. They said, well, we don't know what to feed you. And I'm like, everything that's not meat. And they're like, oh, you know, well, they don't invite you over. But anyway, so coming, because this goes in with the blood and the meat and all that. So all the hormones, all this sort of thing. So everything that goes in. So we've got a chemical reaction in the body. Now we've got hormones going through our blood from the animals we eat. But the mind is the most important thing of all. Is that there's a fat, a myelin sheath that's around the nervous system. Yep. We get that thins as soon as you start eating that vegetable fats as opposed to animal fats. And they know, because they do the science on this. They've had people that have out-of-body experiences, remote viewing. Inga Swan, they employed him through the American government for 25 years. They don't employ someone to teach remote viewing if it's not possible for 25 years. True they see what you work out if you're wanking or not. And I think it was actually Russia they went to spy on through remote viewing and found out that Russia had already been spying on them for 15 years earlier. So then, of course, now we've got a program for this. But when we have those oils, so canola oil, sunflower oil, all these vegetable oils, it actually takes away that fat layer, which makes us more mind controllable.
Yeah, more flexible. The myelin sheath creates the superhighway of the electrical signals. And
so you're watching the TV, you're just
whatever they tell you, then you'll change your perception to that.
Exactly. So they knew that it was many layered. So they look at what we ate, what we drank. Now, water has memory in it. Frequency is throughout water. We know that if we bless water, it forms a beautiful crystal. If we curse it, it's all messed up. Yeah. So, and our body is mostly water. Our brain is mostly water. So we've got toxic water coming in, and don't even get me started on soft drinks. I mean, they're just pure poison. They should only be used to clean toilets and jewelry. Exactly. So they do use Coca-Cola to clean blood off roads, though. They find that when it fizzes up, it gets rid of the blood. So, and yet you're drinking that, which is dissolving away your arteries. Yeah. And then, of course, you've got an atherosclerotic plaque build up, and now you're going to have a heart attack, cardiovascular disease.
Which is on the rise right now.
Well, that's from another cause, thing. Isn't it? This is from something that we've trusted that that they might.
Who's we? I didn't trust her. I didn't trust him.
I didn't. That's why I didn't have it, okay?
Of course, yeah. And most people that are listening to this conversation didn't have it. The beauty of the coming together, we're going to get back to that, is we are like attracts like, you know, like those of us like us are coming together more and more.
Well, it's gathering the gifted, Scotty. You know, it didn't work so much out of Canberra, but I had that as a download. I'll just go back a bit too. I had for a 7-year period. Isn't it funny how it's 7 years? Profound out-of-body experiences. I mean, profound. I woke up with a mark on my body, and from that day, would have every few hours I'd have an experience, and then it slowed down till the end of it, till the end of the 7 years. And I understood it. It was all about the morphogenic field creation, how to create the 100th monkey effect. For those that don't know that effect, they put monkeys on an island off Japan, I think it was. Japan, and they threw sweet potatoes on the ground from helicopter on the sand, and the monkeys would pick them up and eat them, and then all of a sudden one of the younger monkeys decided to wash the sweet potato first to get the sand off it, and then ate it, and the others were just looking because it's like, why is he washing it? But little by little by little, others started to wash it. It was when they got to, they call it the 100th monkey, when they got to the 100th monkey, all of a sudden, not only did they start to every monkey decided to wash its food, get the sand off, it started happening to other monkeys over the world. So they realized that there was that, Rupert Sheldrake talks about it, that morphogenic field, that something advances here and before long it goes throughout the world. So it's like a ripple effect. Our water's connected. I always say to people, between you and I, there is living stuff. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. But when you go down microscopic enough, there it is. So we're in a soup, we're floating in something. So coming back to how our thoughts, there's a chemical reaction in the biological side of us, but then there's a chemical reaction in the ether too. So now we've got that ripple effect. Something happens, something happens, something happens. It's a bit more complicated than that, but you'd understand the double slit experiment. When you understand how it works, you understand the double slit experiment, that we are the viewer. Our thoughts do create. My God, do they create? I was contemplating, I didn't actually get to doing it, but doing workshops on orgasms, So orgasms without using hands. So it's actually thinking of that anatomy, that part of the body. And when you start to think about it, like, there it is. So as soon as you start to think about it, you start to get it to move a little bit. And the more you think about it, the more it all moves down there. And all of a sudden you get that, there it is. So wet dreams, children have that, boys have that of a night. Well,
adults have that. Adults have that.
Sons that would.
I still have wet dreams sometimes.
They said, I didn't touch anything, Mum. Yeah. So it's a good way to show how where thought goes, energy goes. You can use your big toe or your little toe or where, but wherever you place thought, that's where that energy goes. So you're either putting it within to heal or to masturbate without hands, or you're putting it out into the ether to make that change within the ether.
Manifest and create.
Cast in, put the spell in. What do? They say, you know, they've hidden all that. They burnt the witches. They got rid of anyone that had those powers of we can gifted, say paranormal type powers, the gifted, But there's also the alchemists. We understood that the dew off the plant. Let me make a point on this one. So we know how water is. It's got the dew of it's got life in it, you know, but it's got the memory of everything that's happened. So when you take a plant and of that morning dew that lands on it, it's got the essence of God in it and the essence of the plant in that dew. So you take that, and it's amazing the healing abilities that has. And they knew that. And now what are they doing? Chemtrailing all the fucking plants.
Yeah. Yes. This.
You know, and they think that pharmaceuticals,
but is it for a good reason?
Are God and not our immune system,
which
has
of course,
been developed by.
Is crazy. But here's the interesting thing is, and everything that you're saying, there has been a systematic destruction of the gifted. Let's call it the gifted, right? Yeah. The witches, the natural medicine, you know, changing the medical system. All the herbalists got, you know, they're all quacks now.
Not getting naturopaths rebated, homeopaths.
All of this stuff, right?
Exactly.
But it can't be stopped regardless. And this is the beautiful thing. It can't be stopped regardless. And you mentioned something that I want to come back to, is how disorganized or how disconnected a lot of our movement is. And you said, they are so organized, but we are so unorganized. And this has been something that I've seen for so long. And I've worked with, and you know a bit of my background, but I've worked with some of the top thought leaders in the world, sales and marketing, supporting with retreats, not only like big name thought leaders, but I did spend time with the New Earth movement in Bali. Like I lived in Bali for 5 years, right? With Sasha Stone. And
well, I got my Earth Haven site, that concept of Earth Haven. So my website is earthhaven.com, earth-haven.com, and that's all the sustainable living stuff. And that's, I got the same architect as Michael Rice that Sasha has used.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know Sasha,
Interesting.
Well, Max Egan and I spent a bit of time over there a few years ago too, before the whole resort was built. It was nearly there, but it was still being built.
So I worked with Sasha for a while to help build that whole thing with the vision that it's all about the new earth coming together and uniting people. Previous to that, I worked with Roger Hamilton
Yeah.
As that's I think we met through Charlie Stewart Gay and that movement inside of with Agape.
Yeah,
Did we come out of
maybe.
there? Yeah, and
Yeah.
I learnt about Roger from there in LA through
Yeah.
Reverend Michael Beckwith. I think I met you
Yeah.
at Agape.
Well, that's where I got the TV show out of that event.
Yeah,
I was a
cool.
guest
The
on
hub,
someone else's show,
and he had the hub.
and I ended up, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah,
And then I got introduced to, from Cali, I moved back to Australia and then went to Singapore and then moved to Bali a couple of years after that, working with Roger. And Roger's
yeah,
whole vision, Roger Hamilton, was to bring together, and he had done with the XL Foundation, which I believe you were a member of that
yeah,
previous as
yeah.
well, right?
Well, I did all the training with that, and that's part of the I Tune too. That's where it comes
That's
from.
exactly right. When you said
Yeah.
the eight, the
Personality
eight
types,
trigrams
yeah.
of the I Ching, yeah. And Roger took that
Yeah.
to create wealth dynamics, which he now calls
Yeah.
genius. But I worked with Roger for many years, sales and marketing in his retreat, in his resort. I lived at his resort to build this because he was bringing community together. Sasha was bringing community together. All these leaders were saying, let's bring the community together. But when I got close and sit in the same room as these men, powerful men, speakers, leaders, the ego was so massive. And we laugh about it,
Yeah.
but it's so massive that it was repelling anybody else that was strong enough to make a difference. They were an iceberg. They were an island on their own that had followers, but couldn't necessarily hold the space to bring the leaders in because the ego was so big. At least that's my hallucination of it.
The same thing has happened out of the leaders over here in Australia. There's
So
a
this is the
system that I
problem.
like, which is a synarchic system. So a synarchic system is what nature uses. So if there's a male lion here and he's got his pride around, and then another male lion all over there, they can work they're still together until they meet in the middle and they say, right, enough's enough, and a fight will start. But so in other words, nature works more in harmony. It's only when you cross the line. And these guys, there's none of that. They don't want to work in
the freedom
harmony.
movement in Australia, right? Like it's the same thing. It's all these egos. So this was my issue with this whole movement. And let me just share this a little bit because I think it's important. If we're not doing the work on the ego, going inside and actually dissolving this programming that you're talking about, that I'm special or I'm better or he's better than me, therefore I have to make out that I'm better than him or whatever, this weakness inside of us, and we actually strip away the ego and come from the divine self, come from that space of love that is actually who we really are, and we're just experiencing through this binary code, right, of the computer system, potentially then we can start coming together without the lions having to fight. Because if the lions are going to keep fighting in the freedom movement in Australia, in these big thought leaders like Sasha, and I don't know if Sasha changed, this was 8 years ago, in Roger, I don't know if he's changed, I haven't spoken to the man in a few years. Hopefully they have, hopefully they've done the work, but this is a necessity for us to actually make change. We have to work on the ego. We have to let go of the programming of separation, of competition.
And honestly, I think
together.
it's the women, and not just because I'm a female. I think it's the women. It's a feminine cycle coming in. It'll be the elder women that turn things around. When I say turn around, that doesn't mean take down the government and all that sort of stuff. What I'm talking about
to create new community.
So look at the education. Well, start again with the education system. So bringing in more a Steiner, a Montessori, an alternate type of schooling, the health system. So each one, it'll be the women that'll bring this forward. That's one of when I say I get downloads, I don't like to go into it because people all think you're a little bit crazy unless they fully understand where I'm coming from.
Welcome to the show.
It's definitely a feminine energy that's going to bring in that.
But that's the thing. It's a feminine energy, not necessarily the women, but it's the feminine energy in the reality that's now coming back into harmony, because the masculine has gone crazy and it's all competition, it's all busyness, it's all my dick's bigger than your dick. And the women, unfortunately, like you look at the Jacinta Ardern's of the world or the German chancellor we just got rid of, these women are just men. They're masculine, but they got a woman's body. Even now the confusion in the States with the woke agenda,
and
you can choose what you want.
Some of the presidents married them.
Oh yeah, well look at Hillary Clinton, right? Like Hillary Clinton is a man. Yeah. But that's not the the future. It's not necessarily men or women. It's that feminine energy.
It is a feminine energy, but it's the women. I've met with a lot of the grandmothers, a lot of the elders, tribal elders, native, indigenous elders. And look, I tell you, there's a certain calmness, they understand ley lines and energy fields. And if we use the word coding back into Mother Earth, Gaia, and when you look at this, is basically around nature. So we see that nature is changing, nature is adapting. I mean, sure, they're doing things as in controlling weather and all those things that go with that, but nature is changing. So I do believe there's going to be a change. We're too far into it now, and it's a cycle. But when we do come, I mean, as in cataclysms are coming. I really, I don't like to say that, but we're going to get cataclysms. So cataclysms, tectonic plate shifts and things like that. And we know we've got a lot of underground activity apart from what they're blowing up. But we're going to have changes over the next few years. So we're the ones that'll lead forward on the how to come back out that other end with homeschooling, growing, self-productivity with chickens, eggs, things like that.
So let's go in that direction. But before I do, for those guys that are sort of new here, and this is where I want to leave this point, is that's what I'm doing my best to do, Sam, is work on my own ego and bring people together. The Tribes United is a vision I've carried for literally 18, 19 years, is it? Since I was 23, I'm 41. What's the math? 18 years of this vision of we have to come together. We have to build local communities that are connected and united across the world so that as this movement of the times, the end times, and we come, like you said, we come through these cataclysms, the other side of it is to live in sustainable communities, but share resources, share information, share wisdom, inspiration. So that's what let me finish. That's what the Tribes United is about. If you are new here and you want to be part of this movement, become part of this. Join. And don't join as a follower. I don't want followers. I want other leaders to link arms with each other, to help each other, to bring what your passion is in the world. And help each other with your gifts, like you talk about the gifted. So if you are new, tribesunited.org, head over there, check it out, join the community, bring your wisdom and learn and grow together. That's what this movement is about. But Sam, so talk to us about what do you think is going to happen over the next few years and what is the timeline on that? And then let's talk about what you're doing about it and what I'm doing about it, because it seems to be the same thing.
Okay, well, look, it's hard to say because they lie about everything, but we've certainly got we're going through those problems right now. There, it's not over. It's not over, Scotty. How do we know it's not over? We don't know whether we're going to make up another lot of bullshit, and now we're in lockdown again over something. So it's not waiting. It's prepping now, ready to get it if something new comes up real fast. Especially here in Australia, you've got a different situation there. But to be prepared. Now, we talk about getting out. That's all fine. But what I find with the farms or the communities a lot that I've gone out, when I was looking at the whole community model, I would go to all the different communities that I could and then speak to the people that founded them, the lawyers, the accountants, the people behind the scenes. And they all said the biggest problem was the people. So now let's jump to personality. So I believe in profiling your people. There is a checklist. There is a questionnaire. Do you have mental health issues that we should know about? Yes, I do. I'm not talking about me. Well, I am. But it's like, okay, so you're an epileptic. Are you on medication? This property is 20 kilometres out of town on dirt road. It's not suitable for you to come out. Are you an angry, aggressive alcoholic? Things like that. So screening who they are, but then putting in the infrastructure. So presuming you've got your right people, so your key players, and then they screen the rest. But I always profile people first, not to exclude them, but to find out their skills, talents, and abilities. So we're not talking about the programs, we're talking about who they are by nature. But then an infrastructure. And people talk about, like, don't go through council. I get all that. I mean, that's all fine. I don't either. I try not to.
So you're jumping into something that maybe people don't understand. You're talking about getting land and building an off-grid community.
Well, or some land that's come up around Australia that farmers are gifting for people because there's so many displaced people after the floods, after the fires. People, thousands and thousands have lost homes, so they've got nowhere to go.
And is a lot of that happening? Are there a lot of farmers now giving land?
Yes. And then the thing is, there's no infrastructure there. So people are turning up, but they haven't looked at who they are. So one, they really need, to question that, which we're now putting in place. But second thing, basic infrastructure, toilet, shower, amenities that are built to a safety standard. You might say, well, I don't want to go through council because I don't agree with it. fine, but build them as if they were going through council, because then you've reached that standard of safety and health. And I've been to some places and it's really not the place you want little kids running around, and you know, there's drowning hazards, choking hazards, fire hazards. So it's putting the right infrastructure in. So that model, that template.
So you've got some land already. You're right that you're working with some people now, because I know you and I spoke probably 6 months ago about a piece of land that you were looking at. You looked at a couple of pieces of land. But where is this movement happening? Because there's a lot of people listening right now. Most of my audience is in Australia, and they're like, I want to be part of something. You're 100% right. You've got to have the right people, because the personalities will destroy any intentional community. But guide us through, what does this movement look like? Because I know that you're in with a lot of the leaders of this movement.
Let's go back a little bit. So I was looking for land, looking for what it is that I wanted to do. And along the way, I developed a website called earthhaven.com with a hyphen. And it's really bad. I shouldn't have mentioned it now because it's way from being finished. But it was meant to be, when I was looking for, you know, who are the earth builders, who are the earth ship, earth bag, aircrete, dome builders, different types of dome materials, you know, what had other communities done, what was available. So it became a site of all the builders and people that I was dealing with to build my own. Now, when I say my own, I was never going with the community. My thing was to build a display village of all the things that would be required. So showing how to use different types of solar, composting toilets, how to work with different types of concretes and aircretes and weedcrete and all these different products out there that people just don't know about. So I brought together a site, got all the builders to do a 25 home display village, just like you go to a display village here in Australia or anywhere to go and look at homes. So this would be a walk-through display village. Michael Rice was doing a lot of the sacred geometry design of it, which was through Sasha Stone, having all the permaculture, aquaponics, composting toilets that make gas that you can cook with. So a showcase for everything. And at one stage I had 100 acres that I was going to use, but the partners at that time that I was working with, I smelt a rat in something. There was things that were being said that weren't true. They weren't true. Well, they weren't even not quite true. They was hoping they were going to be true and they weren't. So I pulled away from that deal. So we are a display village waiting to happen. At the moment, though, there's little pockets of places where they're asking me what they should build, you know, different things, how we deal with council, all that sort of thing. But I haven't built the display village. Now, in saying that, it would be a community because it would be a live-in. We're looking at about 25 of us living in that display village. So we're working it, we're managing it, caretaking it, and have it open to the public. But I'm open to all sorts of things. The land down in Canberra, I had a look at, just not the right location. Too much dirt road, too wet in the winter, and just not the right location. So if anyone has 100 acres, so I don't have the community yet. I'd love to, but the coronavirus happened then. So that was about the time we were going to build, and of course then things happened from there, and nothing happened. We couldn't have got the builders anyway.
I'd love to connect you with my first guest on the Tribes United podcast, Michael Love. Have you?
I know Michael Love. He's just bought acres up north.
200 of them
for him
in the
and his
Sunshine
family.
Coast.
Yeah, we have had a talk.
Great, yeah. But he did it a really interesting way. And guys, if you want to catch that, tribesunited.org, you can catch that Michael Love episode. He's done it really well. He's connected with this farmer, and she's one of us, right? One of the gifted, love it. She's one of us. And Michael's like, look, we don't have the money, but what if we go and we create a contract here? We'll find the people who are going to invest, and then we'll buy this land. And even if we pay it off over a few years, and she's like, I love it, let's do it. I'm sitting on this old dairy farm that my dad gave me that I'm not doing anything with, and I want to build community. So he created the relationship, and then went out and brought the people, the investors together. And I only saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before on Facebook, they did it. They got enough investors. They were looking for people who had $100,000, I think it was, and they wanted to get like 20 people. I think it was to buy this land for $2 million. I think it was $2 million, it was $1 million, whatever the numbers were. But he found these people, and he got his investors with their money. And he said he had 1,000 people put their hand up to want to be part of this. You know, what word spreads through our movement about this possibility. And he's actually been able to secure it without any money of his own, just being a good human being and trusting and creating that relationship with the farmer, creating the relationship with the investors, the community members, and he screened them all. And now they are moving into
Well, I
actually
sent him a
owning the land.
profiling system because we spoke on it. And when he put the ad out there, he went, oh, my God, I jumped too soon. He didn't realise how many people were going to be interested. He was inundated. And I said, look, this is the one we're using for Earth Haven, but it's a great profiling system anyway. You don't have to use it just for community. You can use it for other things. Screen your family. And so I sent it through, and it's about 17 pages. You really got to ask the right questions. Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Do you have any funny habits? You know, who are the people that come in? You don't want to just take the money. You want to know that the person's the right person too.
Yeah. So speaking of community, like we spoke about this, but with you, we've got this idea of community as like the old 60s and 70s hippie community. You know, it's like a commune or it's an intentional community. It's and in Australia, it's difficult because the land can't be subdivided less than 50 acres, which is a massive problem. So you sort of have to, like, if you've got 100 acres, you can only split it in two, even if you could go through council to do it. So you sort of have to co-own the land. And I was looking at a piece of land in Talabudra Valley doing the same thing. When was this? 2020, when the coronavirus started. I got the land in Mudgery Bar. I got the 10 acres there instead, but I was looking at like 180 or something. It was a massive piece. And then there was an opportunity to be able to buy, like, it was like tenants in common sort of thing. Like you owned it in common.
Yeah, that's one of the models.
Yeah, and then people could buy in and out of it. There's a lot of issues that come up in that because of the co-ownership, because you've got to like make all these decisions democratically inside this community. Here in Russia, very different situation with the council, and there's so much land here, like there is in Australia, so much land here, but they've got a different system, and you can buy old farmland and subdivide down to pretty much what you want. And so this community that we've bought into, I'm trying to find the book. Oh, it's downstairs. You've heard of the Anastasia books?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
I have it.
You have it, great. Yeah, it was 9 of them. But these guys have been in one of the original Anastasia villages. There you go. Ah, beautiful. Vladimir Megre. So the author, Vladimir Megre, he has land in this village still. This was the first village that he lived in. And he built his first kin domain. That's what they call the piece of land. And so there's now 300 families in this village over the last 15 years, 200 permanent families and 100 that come in the summer because the winters are pretty harsh here. It's 45 minutes out of a city, not a big city, but a city. And everyone has their own privately owned piece of land. So you have one hectare. We've got 1.3 hectares, which is about 3 acres. And then my neighbor has his hectare. Then the neighbor has their hectare. You know, your neighbor's a long way away. But we all have our own privately owned land. So you don't have to do this like democratic thing. If we're going to put in a toilet here, no, I want to put it over there. It's my land. It's my house.
Yeah,
it's my place. And so then together, though, we work together. We help each other. There's a local school, like a town hall that they built. They're even renovating the old church at the moment, which is beautiful. It's like a 200-year-old church in the village.
Wow.
It's gorgeous. And they built this old, like not old, but like looks old school with big wooden pillars, high roof, with dome and stuff, as the town hall and the school. They've actually like got their own little school there now. So we've just found like this place that we were dreaming of.
You're making it like Russia's the place to be at the moment.
This is the thing,
for community.
Sam. Over the last 20, like those books, the first book came out in 1995. There's a website, I think it's ringingcedars.org. There's an international movement of this as well. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of these eco-villages throughout Russia. And there's dozens more across the world now of people that are following the philosophy. Now, it's not a religion or nothing. You've read the book. It's just like this woman who's sharing about how we can live in harmony with nature, how we can raise children naturally, how we can live together in community, grow food, help each other. And they've been doing it. Like this one is 15 years established. There's hundreds of them. There's tens of thousands of people now living in these eco-villages across Russia, in these Anastasia eco-villages. And it's what I've been looking for my whole life, but I didn't have to create it from scratch. And I can still have my like private ownership that this is my family, my own piece. And then we just help each other. And they've got their own fire brigade. They've got their own security team. Like two of my neighbors are on the security team. Every morning they radio in and let each other know like who's on board today, who's not. And they're keeping track. Oh, sort of dodgy car driving down over this section. It's massive, like 300 acres effectively. It's massive. But there's roads all in between. There's a couple of like old villages with old locals like living there. There's old logging trails in the forest. Like it's beautiful. But they're organised. The school, the fire brigade, they're organised. So,
and everyone's got their freedom within it too.
I can do what I want. I can build how I want, and you will get the neighbours like we're going for a walk and the neighbours like, oh, you're building out of timber, right? You're not building out of brick. And, and it's like, no, we're building out of timber. Oh, good, because, Anastasia says you should be low to the ground. Is it one story or two stories? So there's some that are like hardcore. They got their opinions. But most people leave you alone and you can just do your own thing, But everyone helps each other. So this to me is the future, whether it is getting 100 acres and sort of doing that and just marking it out and being like, right, that's yours. That's your acre. That's your 3 acres. That's your hectare over there. She says you should have a hectare. That's your hectare. That's your hectare. You can do what you want. Just don't annoy him. You can do what you want. Just don't annoy her. And everyone can get on. But then we can work together. So rather than necessarily having to be, and I'm just saying there's another model. Rather than having to be this like intentional commune style where we all got to like vote in order to do one thing. It's like, mate, that's yours. Everyone understands that's yours, that's yours, that's yours. That's how we live today. But let's all help each other. Let's all work together, right? Let's create a memorandum of understanding, an MOA of like, what is it? Memorandum of understanding, MOU, of this is how it all works. This is what it looks like. That's yours, that's yours, that's yours. We've put it on a cartography map. So there's no arguments about it. And let's just live in harmony. Now let's get back to what we're really here to do. Let's grow food. Let's help each other to grow. Let's get over the political bullshit and let's just do this thing.
Yeah, well, if the acreage is there, it's a perfect scenario then because you're not in each other. And you say there's acreage here, but I think the mining companies want it all, don't they?
Well, look, Michael Love just got 200 acres. If you get 200 acres, and that's, if you had 2 acres each, that's 100 people on 2 acres.
And he's got the best location too. I mean,
right on the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. It's fantastic. But there's land, like if you just go out the back of Brizzy, there's hundreds of acres of old dairy farms or old whatever farms, like dairy cattle farms out there that are doing nothing. I've got another mate, it's actually a friend of my best mate, who's way out, like 8 hours drive. I don't even know the name of the place. It's in the middle of nowhere, very dry. But they bought 500 acres for like $150,000. But they have a waterfall. They have water, like a permanent river, and they're just like, it's dry, scrub land. But they're just slowly building like this little community around this waterfall all along the river.
As long as they've got water.
They've got water, starting to irrigate and grow agriculture. And he breeds dogs is his thing. That's how he funds everything. So we bought the land. But it's way out there. So you got to be willing to be fully off grid. But I think more people are willing to do that. I mean, I moved to Russia. Don't give me this off grid shit. I moved all the way to bloody Russia. It's minus 30 in winter, minus 20, minus 30, you got to have some hardship at this time.
I saw you jump in the ice pond and I'm like, oh my God, and you've got no fat on you either.
I need to get some fat on me. I'm getting skinnier. That's the problem. But you get used to it. Your mind can do anything. If you're willing to sacrifice and be a little uncomfortable, you can do anything you want. If you want to get strong, you got to go through discomfort to do that. If you want to get smart, you got to learn and read and study. Anything's if you want a greater relationship, you're going to have your arguments. You're going to go through your hard times. So right now, people have just got to accept that you got to go through the hard stuff. Move out, sell your comfort, be a little uncomfortable for a while and get set up.
Well, a lot are going into Winnebagos, buses, campers, they're they've got nowhere to live. There's so many more homeless now because of the flooding. I think it was something like 36,000 homes were condemned. And now, boy, oh boy, do we have a mould problem.
Yeah, I bet.
We've got mould everywhere because there's been so much wet around. So it's getting into our brickworks, our walls, our concrete, it's getting closed, everything. Yeah. So that's going to affect people's lungs, of course. But, many have decided to just get campers. That's it. They've lost everything anyway. So
what do you reckon's going to happen in Australia, Sam? Being in the heart of it, you're going to the movements, you're in with the leaders. What do you see over the last 2.5 years now, and where do you reckon it's going?
Well, I'm embarrassed to see that we haven't been better organised, and had we have been, we'd have a better luck of turning this around. But let's look at it realistically. People talk about taking down the government. I think it's the stupidest conversation we can have because we're an island. You take down the government, and of course, the others are going to, the World Health Organization, who UN is going to be in here in a heartbeat. China's already here. They already live here. Most of them already live here. So it's only going to bring worse upon. It's not taking it down from there. It's taking it down from underneath, which is how they've got us. They've come in underneath. They've programmed us underneath. So, and that's the movement that's happening. So people that are still in certain jobs that may have got vaxxed because they, you know, that was the only solution they had to be able to keep their work, but from inside they're actually infiltrating bit by bit by bit. You know, nurses are getting together and talking, doctors are getting together and talking, met a whole lot from working with the Telstra, those sort of different companies, and people that have worked on the 5G towers, you know, they worked on them and they've got kids. Some of them are awake enough to say, we've got kids and we know this thing is military. So, you know, what can they do to do that? So people, I won't say sabotage, but people are working from the inside. That was one thing I did get out of Canberra, out of all those people. A lot of the forces, so paramedics, people like that cluster together. They stay with their own, people that have walked out of the police force because they won't get vaccinated. But they've still got friends in, or they understand the system. We can't take it down a system we don't understand. They already understand it. So that is happening. There is the leaders, our so-called leaders, aren't doing anything to get the masses together, but from inside, lawyers, different people are slowly bringing it down. So it'll get to the point that it's just going to bust. How long that is, I don't know.
But what's going to
I
bust?
would have
The
liked it to
government
have already
itself,
happened.
or the lie, the manipulation?
The lie, and then it all comes down from there. One comes down, the other one comes down. We're looking at stuff. I mean, I know a lot of us in this movement have looked at things, hoping that Trump was going to be the person to come and save, and looking at Jassara and Nassara and bringing that in and that. And look, I don't know. You see little bits and pieces of things happening. You know, bringing back a gold back, getting away from not going into digital currency, but Trump also signed something that meant that the armed forces got vaccinated too. So why would you take out your main forces, you know, medical, military? Why would you vaccinate them and take them down unless you were doing a genocide? Unless you were just, it doesn't matter, we're going to take out everyone.
Well, you didn't know. I mean, could he have been ignorant at that stage when it was so new? We don't know.
It could have. Some that were giving it probably were, but I can't believe that they were that ignorant because they want genocide. They want a decrease in population, so they knew that some people would be killed from this.
So you reckon there's enough of a grassroots movement organically of people rising up, like you said, that have been in the system, and you said it's not about the government, it's about the lie coming to fruition. So are you sort of it's going to naturally expose itself and then crumble, and we don't need to do much? Well,
there are, lawyers, yes, taking them on. So little by little, in the end, there's just enough people that resist. They say, that's it. We're not conforming with what you're saying anymore. We don't believe you. And it's got to happen country by country, but within it's happening. So when the ones that are left start stepping down, even though they've been vaccinated, then it all crumbles. It won't be nice times to live through for us. That's where it comes back to either self-sufficiency or stockpiles. I've got 5 years worth of food here, 5 years worth, beans, lentils, anything that is dried beef jerky, anything I can dry.
Yeah, awesome.
Water, I've got a year's worth of water, and yet the taps still have water in them. But, you know, if they cut off the water, trying to, whatever, you don't know what they're capable of. I mean, we could get full on martial law at any time. In some countries, it's already been there. Yeah. So being prepared, know where to go. So we do have pockets of places. Friends of mine have addressed. We've got an address in Tamborine, and there's somewhere up on the Sunshine Coast. And there's different locations around that we have got, which I'm not telling everybody, but they're for small groups. They're not for everyone to turn up because the acreage isn't big enough. Yeah, so, but we know that we can be sufficient enough to feed ourselves for years to come.
Oh, I love it. And you've done that. You've got your 5 years there. So do you reckon there is going to be food shortages, an economic collapse, martial law?
It's already doing it. You know, they take out a food at a time. You know, now there's no lettuces. Once there was no toilet paper. You know, there's no meat, and yet it just means we go away from the big chains, which we should be anyway. But you go to the farmers markets, and you go to the roadside stalls, you'll find that stuff. And it makes us eat better anyway, because who wants all the junk food anyway by going to these places? The sooner that stops, the better.
Do you feel that we are the ones that are awake and awakening? We are still the minority, or we're being lied to about the numbers?
Oh, we're being lied to about the numbers. I know I've got a doctor friend who looked into it from the statistics. She could look in, from a medical perspective. And at that stage where they said there was something like, nearly half the world was vaccinated, she said it was only about 26% at that particular time. And then they did a, get vaccinated. So that went up. But I don't think it's half the world. I know more people that are unvaccinated than vaccinated. Sure, it's the circle that I mix in, but then everyday people, they'll say, oh yeah, I just faked it, or I've got it, I did this or I did that. There's people getting around it. I mean, if you really don't want to be done, and you've got that strength to stand up, and you can earn a living without having to do it. I've got a family member, a couple of family members that have been vaccinated. They felt that was the only way. A brother who's a truck driver interstate, so he has a trucking company, so he felt that his whole livelihood would go if he couldn't go across those
for
borders.
a lot of people.
So, and others, it's just stupidity. They just went along because some, peer group pressure. Their friends all got it, so they felt they had to.
These are the people that are listening to the media, doing what they're told, good little sheep, but they're going to be really caught out. And what I'm trying to do is bring together and help those that are like us, that are awake, but we're useless alone. We can shout from our little corner, but if we can come together and build these communities, even if they're urban communities, like you live in, wherever you live in Brisbane.
Welcome people,
welcome people, help each other, barter, support. Can you take the kids? I can be industrious. Can you look after the kids? Great, you go and work, I'll take care of the kids. But I'm not saying this is going to happen right now, but over the next, my sort of, their agenda is 2030, right? So I'm going to say over the next, 22, over the next 8 years, this is slowly going to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. Let's see what pops. We don't know. Is it going to be them or is it going to be us? But I reckon we've got to help each other. We've got to come together. We've got to help each other.
Well, I think we've got them and us, but we've also got global cataclysms happening which are about to happen at the same time. So
naturally occurring.
So Earth shifts. So that's going to cause cataclysms. I mean, and people say, oh, we know. And I say, well, what happened with the tsunami a few years ago, Sri Lanka and all that? I mean, no one knew. They were on the beach, half the people. Thailand, but it hit right across, so no one knew. So things happen. Look at Pompeii. People were in the middle of having sex or giving birth or, doing something, everyday stuff, and next thing they're frozen in time. So I think, again, be prepared. If you're on flood low land, now's the time to move. Don't leave it any longer. In fact, you should have done it years ago. But then we're having floods here that we've never seen before. Because, and, don't talk about weather manipulation, but we're literally seeing it at its best.
But maybe that's why these guys and the psychopaths are doing their best to try and gain as much control as they can right now, because they know of this cycle. Like I'm listening to this guy on YouTube about the cycles in time and looking at history, and we know, 1902 and 138 years, and he's got this 138 year because we're in a simulation. It's like cogs in a wheel. And so by 2040, we're going to have another massive cataclysm, but there's like small cataclysms leading up to this massive reset.
Well, look at the mud flood. I mean, Max Egan spoke about this a lot on a podcast he did, but it was 1845. We work it out about then. There was a global mud flood, mostly global. So it took out what we know as the Tartarian Empire. Some say it doesn't exist, but you look at the architecture of it. There was something that existed that has been covered up by mud. Look at it that way. So and we're due to have one, whether you look at Nibiru or, different stuff that they've shown in hieroglyphics of planet changes, but it changed. It does it. It cycles. So we have to live through that. And I think they've brought this in because it's major devastation at the same time. So if you've got floods or earthquakes all happening, and then you've got, the vaccine damages and people dying off other things, it brings it all in. It's literally a scorched earth policy that they've brought in. They literally, there's no reason, there's no other reason you would do this other than to reduce the population.
Yeah. But I reckon those of us that are doing what it takes to live sustainably outside of their system, because they own the corporations, they own the media, they own the transport logistics, they own the food supplies. And for those of us that are going and being self-sustainable, being off-grid, building our own community, other than, if we're on an earthquake fault or something or in a low-lying floodland, but I don't believe that they can harm us. They can't touch us. We're going to go do our own thing. Those that they've manipulated and brainwashed will be stuck in the trap. But those of us that are awake and go and actively set ourselves up to live like our ancestors live. I'm not asking about anyone to do anything revolutionary here. I'm just saying grow food and help each other like our ancestors always did before we relied on major corporations and logistics
that's how
trains.
we did it. Yeah, well, look, I've got something at Tambourine, so I've got some acreage there that I will be heading out to. Yep. It's only 40 minutes from here, not far, but I'm prepared. I'm prepared. Yep. I'm hanging in as long as I can here because I'm on the outskirts a little bit. It's not far to get out.
Yeah.
But
we've got time. Like, this is not next week. I reckon we've got a few years here of this slowly tightening. At least in Australia and the Western countries, I reckon we've still got time.
It's cataclysm. Some are saying next year, 2023. So if you're on highland and haven't been,
you never know.
I wouldn't want to be on beachfront.
Yeah, okay.
Or flood zones. So if you're up high, who knows? You know,
that's the thing, we don't know.
There's shells on the top of the Himalayas, Scotty. So they were under ocean at one stage. So
or they've pushed up from the ocean. Either one.
Yeah.
We don't know. But what we do know is that we help each other and we come together and we're good people. We keep doing the work to discover more of ourselves. You said personalities are the problem of community. Let go of that personal identification, aka the ego
that is attached to that person because of their programs added. So, but as I said, I'd love to put you through it. I can do it as an online course. So I'll run you through it. You know, anyway, you're living your dream and your path, but it's a little bit different to Roger Hamilton. So I use about 3 or 4 different ones because then you know that they're the same. So from that, and then skills, talents, and abilities, and I do it into as if you're going to do the hero's journey. So you literally write a script and that's the character, and the character is you. So once you understand the character is you, those things start to happen. You literally magnify, and I'll say magnify. No, not magnify. What am I trying to say?
Magnify and attract. You bring it into your reality.
You're bringing it into reality when you go, because you're thinking, you go, that's me, that's who I am. So,
yeah, beautiful. So how would people find more info? Where are we finding you? Has you got the website? We're going on Facebook. I've tagged you on Facebook. All the links will be in the description.
Well,
but
they
where's
can
the
send
best
a
place
message
to
on
connect?
Facebook for the now. I do have a site, but I get so much spam on there, I hardly look at it. And that's the Earth Haven site.
Okay.
I think I've disconnected the contact with Samantha Bachman's site because you just get, once I put stuff out there about genital mutilation and I got hate mail, and then I put up about masturbation, then I got wankers. So I thought I just don't want to answer this stuff anymore. So
makes sense.
But if they send me a message there, especially if you're in this area, but with the programming, I'm about to do it as an online course. I have met an awesome bunch of women and that are movers and shakers, you know, barristers, lawyers, doctors, nurses, people in professions that are ready to make those moves too. I mean, they're working from the inside, but we're actually looking in the northern New South Wales to start a model community. So again, we know you've got something there, and that the difference is what we want to start is literally a model. So a display, that display village. So you can come in with your people, with all your family, and say, that's what we want to build, but we want to build it over there or there or there. People don't know what to look for. I mean, people don't know that there are toilets out of Iran. It could be they come from, or Israel. The biogas toilet. So not only does it break down your shit, it turns it into cooking gas.
Yeah.
You know, solar. You don't need solar with solar power. There's someone out of Germany that's invented solar paint. So you just paint the wall with it and it collects power. So there's so much new stuff coming out all the time that we really want to be a bit of a display and show other people how to do it. So that's my thing. Deprogramming, and then showing you the way forward.
I love it. So get rid of the old and here's the new possibility of your future. And I love what you're talking about is helping people with that hero's journey script and that new identity that they can step into. That's powerful.
Well, otherwise it's a bit of a void. They don't know who they are. So you actually have to rebuild the person before you take off the layers. Otherwise there's a void and they go straight back to the old them. So, and the hero's journey I found, so it's like, okay, so what's your hero? So your hero is going to be something that has your skills, talents, and abilities, of course. And then you write how they started, what changed them, and then what led them to the destiny that they're now going to. And in the exercise of looking and researching that, it becomes who you are. You go, oh my God, I am that person that can do that. And
Oh,
you're
I
a
love
perfect
that.
example too. You've just jumped off every so often,
Oh,
reinvent yourself, have the courage
a
to
million
just go,
times.
okay, I'm free. I'm free. I'm going to be whoever now.
Oh, for 20 years. I mean, like you said, I think I was born for this as well. It hasn't been easy to be
Mm,
myself because that's all I'm doing is being myself and trusting. And you use the word courage. I have a lot of courage. I'm grateful that I have a
yeah.
lot of courage. It doesn't mean
I
there's not
don't know.
fear.
People have said that to me. I just think I'm stupid and don't really look at it. Because some things, if you really looked into them, you wouldn't do it. But you
I've
just go,
looked into
oh
them and I still
yeah,
do them.
it's like blind faith. It's
I
like
just
I'm
have a go.
14.
I
Yeah,
can be a little heavy-handed sometimes because I just have a go and I'll just make it
yeah,
work, and it's just like you just got to do it. But I always back myself. I believe in myself a lot, and I love myself a lot, and I feel that's what most people need to adopt. If
yeah.
we love ourselves enough just to have a go, even if it doesn't work, I still love myself, so it doesn't really
Well, I
matter.
trust me more than anybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the
So I'm like,
key.
well, I'd rather be the one behind the wheel.
But it's that know thyself that's the key. Because who am
Yeah,
I loving? Who am I trusting? Who am I believing in? That
yeah.
self love, self trust, self
Well, look, I
confidence.
had pullers in like
God.
even married to them that, oh yeah, you think you're smart, you can do this, la di da di da di da. So
Yeah.
and he'd pick on me when I was about to step on a stage somewhere, and it would just sabotage me every time because we've just had almost a fight about
Yeah.
he thinks I'm a smart ass just as I'm about to go and do something. And
Wanker.
once I got rid of that pulling in my life, oh, there's no one I
It
answer
took
to.
off.
Me, I
Yes.
am the one that knows me. Don't you tell
Yes.
me what I should do. I know what I'm supposed to do.
Because it's coming through me. It's not coming from the outside. It's coming through. The
Yeah,
guidance is within.
yeah,
Sam, you're awesome, and I'd love to. I can see we got to get out of here. I'd love to dive deeper into more of that manifesting who we are conversation. But for those
well,
that,
that would be the spiritual side because I'd
yes,
like to go into the experiences that I've had and each experience that led me to understanding that morphogenic field creation, how
mm,
you view it in the ether and what happens from there. It's not technical, but if you're spiritually minded and you shut your eyes, because I say if you shut your eyes, I can envision it, and then you can see what I'm seeing because I'm guiding you through it.
yeah.
So
And as someone that's
100th
not,
monkey effect.
yeah, I love it. As someone who's known you now for 15 years, the life that you live is you're free. You just create what you want, how you want to do it, when
Yeah,
you want to do
yeah,
it, like you always have. And so
yeah,
for a lot of people out there that are just like emerging to, hey, can I really do anything? What is possible in
yeah.
life? You're a great example of what is, and I am also, which is why we're
Or
friends.
stupid, or stupid.
Or you just having a crack. But you understand, and I believe I do too, that it is this. It's an etheric matrix. This
Yeah,
holographic field, or the morphogenic field you called it, yeah.
morphogenic field.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where we can morph it, we can change it like it's malleable substance,
exactly.
and we
Yeah.
can create whatever we want as long as we come from our
Well, we
center.
created. That's what they did. They code in. And what do they do? Look at things like the CERN when they do these ceremonies. They're casting in evil spells. We do the same, but we
Yeah.
cast in good. It can be used both ways.
And that's what you're saying about the witches have been taken away because the witches were the ones doing the
Yeah,
ceremonies. In Russia, like I
yeah,
was my son was going to a Steiner Kindy. We took him out
yeah,
now from home, but the Steiner Kindy, they had these celebrations and these ceremonies in the forest where they're
yeah,
playing music and singing and, the kids are doing stuff. But it's like you step out of it, which I did. I step out and I'm like, wow, this is a ceremony. They're in a circle. They're
yeah,
holding space. They're actually projecting into the ether this
yeah,
celebration of whatever that time of year. The most recent one was spring. It's a celebration of rising sun, of bringing in this energy of awakening of spring.
yeah.
They're actively participating in it. We sort of lost that from the English culture, but the
Yeah,
Russians have still got
but
that traditional nature.
look at like the Native American India or the tribal people here where they would
Yep.
do a rain dance. They would dance around. And the grandmothers used to wet the kids' moccasins because they were leather, and they knew that if they put water on, they'd be earthed to the ground. So they literally would be connected, and they're creating a field, a vortex, if you like.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. And this is the thing. It is a morphogenic field. It is an
Mm.
etheric field that we can and we are naturally, whether you're doing it negatively or positively, whether you're doing it consciously or
It works
unconsciously,
either way.
it works. We are. It doesn't have
But
a
what are we
preference.
putting in? Poor me, can't do it, not good enough, need more money,
Exactly.
fear, not
And
good
this is what I
enough.
mean by one part of the awakening is realizing we've been lied to, but the most important part is that what you call that spiritual part is now what's possible. I can
Yeah,
do anything.
yeah,
I can create whatever I
yeah,
want. I'm going to create the life of my dreams.
yeah. Yeah, that's it.
This is where we're at.
Well, it's a bit like the vision board, isn't it? It's just that it's so when you and I did the vision boards back in the day,
Yep.
many people do vision boards. The
Yep.
thing is, again, we didn't know ourselves. When you know thyself, that vision board is so different because
Yeah.
it comes from empowerment. You know who you are, so what,
Yeah.
and you know that you can intend in. You
Yes.
can intend in. So
Yes.
as opposed to, oh, I'll put that board and attract it to me. No, you're not
I'm
attracting it.
painting that.
You're
I'm
putting it
telling
in.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not waiting. I'm not. That's the problem with the vision board. We wait with doubt. Oh, where it might come.
Yeah.
No, this is who I am, and I as in not the binary code of this, sight, see, smell, all this, taste, and touch, but who I
Yeah.
really am is projecting through this and into this morphogenic field to then
Yep.
create the reality that I want. And all you need is a little patience, because matter takes some time to come together. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
faster.
Oh,
Depends on
look,
how
I
long you've
tell
been
you
doing
what,
it.
with the awakened one, the manifesting is faster than ever.
Much, yeah, much faster.
It's all we find in our group, that is, we're finding, like you say, that you've got your little people around, you want this done. All of a sudden, there it is. The person shows up and it's done. It's just,
Yeah.
We are coming together, but, coming back to the stupefaction of humanity through, soft drinks and 20 bars and, pouring
The
things
oils,
in. And we've lost our connection, and then toxic injections into us. So, yeah, time to clean up and know thyself, and then go and work with others that know themselves too. We're not into ego. We don't want to fight. We want to help each other. How can I be of service to you?
And let's co-create what we want.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Sam, I'm grateful to be co-creating with you. So, guys, if you want to connect with Sam, and do co-connect with Sam, go and listen to what this woman has to say, right? Go over, I think Facebook's your main one. Samantha Rayn Bachman on Facebook.
Well, I was quiet ever since this spiritual stuff back years ago. I actually I literally stopped speaking until I got it. It was a bit embarrassing how it stopped, because I had my talks that I do, and then I get this hit by a spiritual brick, and I went out and I spoke on something that had happened that I perceived, and it told me off that night, just said, no, you've got it all wrong. And I went, oh, how embarrassing.
Wow.
So it was a real ego check to know that what you think no, not necessarily is the case.
I love that. You took yourself away to integrate that wisdom, so that you're not just speaking from your tongue, but you're speaking from your soul. Because a lot of people out there just
I did that 7 years of going within and doing the research too, and all of a sudden, bang, there it was. So now Canberra, that rally in Canberra brought me out. I was sitting there with a girlfriend, and I said, oh my God, something's just happened. I've been activated. Now it sounds a weird thing to say, but it was like, boom, something happened. And then when I went to the farm, which is a small community out of Canberra, it happened a second time, and I knew it was my time. Come back now.
Yes.
So look out, Scotty.
Well, let's go, Sam. And hopefully this conversation has helped to bring a bit of you out as well, because you have so much wisdom, and you lived wisdom. You didn't read it in a book. You've lived it for decades now. Your life, and your story that you shared tonight is a fraction of what you've done in the woman that you are, like a tiny little piece, guys. You got it. This woman is just a wellspring of courage, strength, self-belief, passion, wanting to make a difference, but making a difference in so many different fields. From, I don't want to go there, but when you started back in the day with the women helping the workers, the working women, right? You revolutionized it.
Prostitution legalized in Victoria.
The fuck is that? Who does that?
Started the Brothel Owners Association. Well, women's rights.
When was that? That was huge.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Oh my God. That, and you cleaned it up so they weren't just hanging out on dodgy streets, but they're actually you're protecting these women who it's the oldest profession in the world, but you went and helped these women, and then you went and did the genital mutilation and worked with India. I think it was a lot in India,
India and Africa. The genital mutilation is more in Africa. It's everywhere. It's here in Australia too, but stepping up for that. And then I know with Sasha and that we were looking at, the pedophile stuff and the baby banks. You can buy a baby out of these countries, or get a baby out of these countries, and things like that, and what happens there. And in the end, I left it all once I had that spiritual brick hit me, and I just had to walk away. Away from everything. It affects me energetically. I can only be positive. I can't work on anything that is a darker side of life these days.
I'm the same,
it physically affects me. Yeah.
Well, we're here to now create. We realize there's a
Yeah.
lot of darkness, but we get to create what we want to create. We've done the work, and we're not at the top of the mountain, but we're doing the work to know who we really are. Who am I?
Yeah.
That ever evolving question. And then from that place, we're manifesting the reality. And that's why we speak, Sam, I'm sure of it, because we want to just help other people to do the same.
Yeah, of
We're not
course.
alone. We're all in this together. We're cells in an
Yeah.
organism. We're
Well,
brain
look, and
cells.
we're happy enough to admit we don't know either, but at least we're a little
Yes,
bit more organized than some. So give us a call and I'll help you out as much as we possibly can. It's, that's where
exactly.
we are now.
Yeah. And
It's because we
especially
don't know.
if you know that you, and for Sam particularly, if you know that you've got some programming, all of us, right, that you want to do
Yeah.
something about it, I can't highly recommend Sam enough. Like, go and connect, go to Facebook, go and send her a message, go and follow her stuff there, reach out and do some work with Sam. She will hold your hand, she will guide you through, she will help change your
Aren't you
life.
nice? Or I'll tell you to
I'm
fuck
nice
off.
and honest. Or if you don't, if they don't
Yeah.
resonate, you tell them fuck off. But that's the
It
thing.
goes
You're
both
honest. I'm
ways.
honest. Yeah. But guys,
Yeah, yeah.
go and connect with Sam. Please do it. We're going to wrap up, Sam. If you are new to this, as I said, this is a movement. This is not a talking heads conversation. Tribes United is a movement. My endeavor here is to get out of the way, aka ego, that identification, so that we can come together and hold hands and help each other. I'm
Yeah.
doing my best to bring great leaders together. Sam is a fantastic human being. She's a strong leader with a depth of wisdom to help us evolve and prosper through these times. Other leaders are coming together too now with the Tribes United. We're all our own people. You're a tribe, Sam. You've got a tribe. I've got a tribe. He's got a tribe. She's got a tribe. Let's just unite the tribes. We don't have to lose our identity. I'm not saying let's morph under one banner. Let's just come
Yeah.
together. So then the egos don't have to clash, as that's your pride. That's your pride. That's your pride. The lions can be the lions, but let's unite and work together to create something
Yeah.
more. So that's what we're
Yeah.
doing. That's the Tribes United. Head over tribesunited.org, guys. Go and check it out. Go and sign up. Become part of this movement. And if you're a leader like this and you want to have a conversation with me about this, jump in. Let's go. Like, let's do it. Share your wisdom and let's support each other. But thank you, Sam. Anything else you want to leave us on?
No, we've covered so many things tonight.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
just like a little bit of everything. So look, we'll see what the feedback's like, and
Yep.
if we want to jump into programming online or more on the spiritual, it'd just be a spiritual conversation for the spiritual, people looking for that. My experience in the ether. We can leave out all the politics and bullshit of our time. So
Yep.
yeah, we'll just see what the feedback is, and if anyone's interested, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, please. And again, Sam's very open. Reach out and connect with her. And if she can support you, I'm sure, unless she tells you to fuck off because she doesn't like you, then she will. All right, that's what we do. So I love you, Sam. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
guys,
you too.
wherever you are, make sure that you subscribe, like. If you're on iTunes or Stitcher or one of those, subscribe and do this. Share this with somebody. Tag somebody, share it with somebody that this will resonate with. And let's ripple this out, okay? Let's help each other to come together and be the best that we can be. Love you, Sam.
Yeah. All right,
See you
love
guys.
you too.
Cheers.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.